In this video, let's adjust the user interface and prepare the reference images for our cute creature sculpting. So here I started with the sculpting workspace, as you can see. However, for now, let's switch over to object mode and let's split the view 3 times. So we have 2 small windows over here and 1 big 3D view over here. This one on top, we will change over to the image editor. This we will use to look at our reference image, which I will now drag and drop from my external folder directly into this window. Now you can see we have it here, so we can zoom in and zoom out, and with middle mouse button click I can drag this around so I can see the back and the front. Then down here we want to leave the 3D viewport active, and in a second we will add reference images into the 3D view, which we then down here see on top of our 3D model. So while we are creating the base mesh and sculpting, we can see how and if the 3D object aligns with our concept art. Then, for now, let's also enable the floor grid and the X and Y axis, just to better see from which angle we are viewing our scene. Then up here, let's change this collection and call this creature. Let's delete the lamp and the camera. And I don't know if we want to use a squat sphere here. However, we can use it for now as scale reference. Let's set this to 0.5 meter because I think the creature should be something along 50 centimeters height. And maybe let's change X and Y to something like 25 centimeters. Then let's move it up. I hold down Control so it's snapping on the grid here. And now it's basically standing on the ground and it is 50 centimeters high. So we now know how big we should scale the reference images. So then from my external folder, I drag and drop the front reference image into the viewport here. And you can see this is an PNG image with transparent background. I only added this white outline to the creature so we can better see the silhouette. And we don't have this big bright white background here, which is just confusing. By the way, you can find all the reference images down below in the project files section. So now this is just a 3D object as everything else, so we can just pick it and press S to scale it down. And now let's make sure that this is roughly the height of this egg-like shape, something like this. And down here, let's press numpad 1 so we can see it from the front. Let's zoom in a bit. And this is what we will have later on. However, let's middle mouse button click on these buttons here, move this to the side so we can go into the viewport overlays. If I disable them completely, you can see that also the image will disappear. However, I can go in here and disable the grid, text info and outline selected, so only the extras is enabled, which shows us the image here. And let's disable all the gizmos here, and we can even right click header and click on show header so we disable it. So we have a clean 3D view over here. Let's zoom in a bit more. You can hold down Control and middle mouse button click to smoothly zoom in and out so we know exactly what's going on down here. Then we still have a problem. The image is now behind the object. So of course I could just move it to the front here. However, there's a better way on doing it. Let's move it to the back here so it's not in the way when we, for example, want to select the 3D objects here. However, if we go down here to the Object Data tab, we can find these image settings up here. And here under depth, we can set up if the image should be shown as a regular object, meaning if it's behind an object, it will show behind. If it's in front of an object, it will show in front. Or we can change this to front. So it will always be shown in front no matter if it's behind or in front of the object, or the other way around. It will always shown behind the object no matter if the actual 3D object is in front or behind the other objects. So in this case, I set this to front. And since this is the front side of the creature, I want to show it only from the front side. Meaning if I now have a look from the back, it's transparent. Meaning up here, let's create a new collection with C. And let's call this references, and then let's move it up here and move the empty over here. The empty is this image which was created after we dragged and dropped an image into the 3D viewport here. Let's call this front. And now let's duplicate this, Shift D, right click, then it jumps back to the original position here. Let's change the name to back, and let's change the side to back as well. However, this should still always show in front of the objects. Then of course I want to change the image for the back one. Let's go down here to image, click on the X, so we are unlinking this image here and we can open a new one. Let's click on open, then navigate to the folder where you have the images of the creature. In this case we are using cute creature back PNG, and open the image. Now if we take a look from the other side, we can see it from behind, which is pretty cool. Also down here, now I press numpad 1 for the front view, and if I press numpad control 1, and then we can see it from the back. Of course, we can maybe move this over a tiny bit. And one other thing I want to do for both images is to change the opacity. Let's enable opacity down here. Let's turn it down a bit, maybe something like 0.5, and the same for the front image, opacity 0.5. And now you can see it's transparent, and we can align these images a bit better to roughly fit the shape in the background. Let's press Ctrl numpad 1 from the back view, select the image and move it a tiny bit. Of course, the concept art is not perfect from the perspective, and also we are seeing the creature in a 3/4 view. However, for now it's just the size which is important for us. We will adjust it later on a bit so it's better fitting the 3/4 view, but more about this in a separate video. Then there's one last thing I want to change here for the images, and this is that it only shows up in the orthographic view. Meaning if I disable perspective for both images, you can see they will disappear as long as we are in perspective mode. However, if I change over to orthographic, you can see they will appear. Meaning in practice, if I press numpad 1, when we see this grid in the background, we are switching automatically to the orthographic view, and then we will see the images. However, as soon as I navigate around, they will disappear. And down here, as long as we stay in this orthographic view with numpad 1 or control numpad 1, we will always see the images. So now if you want these images to be packed into the blend file and not just linked from your hard drive, go to File, External Data, and then click on Automatically Pack into Blend. Now you can see 3 files were packed. These are our 3 images here. And now save the blend file under Qt Creature 01, for example, and then click on Save As. And now we are ready for creating the base mesh and then starting sculpting.